Few people truly understand how fast a human identity can be erased from the physical world. One moment, a child is a vibrant, chaotic pulse of laughter against the green canvas of a forest. The next, there is only a hollow, vibrating space where a life used to be. Mount Shasta is often marketed as a place of light, a spiritual sanctuary for the lost. But for those who have audited its silence, it is a place of cold, mechanical extraction. In 2011, this peak performed a calculation that shattered every law of biological probability. A 3-year-old boy was playing near his family's campsite, a tiny, radiant spark of innocence against the ancient, indifferent granite of the mountain. In our archive, we know that it takes exactly 300 seconds for a reality to collapse. His mother turned her head for 5 minutes, a mundane interval of domestic distraction, and in those 300 seconds, the mountain audited the boy's coordinates and found them redundant. The forest didn't just hide him, it deleted him from our sensory map. While his parents screamed his name into the void, their voices breaking like glass against the unyielding pines, the mountain remained a silent overhead auditor. It watched with the cold optics of the stars as a toddler's presence was overwritten by the terrain. In the mountain's ledger, he was no longer a son, he was already marked as relocated. The boy's laughter was still echoing in his father's mind, a cruel, acoustic ghost, but the terrain had already moved on to the next calculation. This is not a story of a lost child. This is a forensic report on a biological asset moved by a force that mimics the familiar to conceal the impossible. The response was a titan's effort, a massive, high-stakes mobilization of human will against the mountain's architecture. But every data point that returned from the field broke the mission's logic. Within only 5 hours of his disappearance, a radio crackled with a message that defied the laws of physics. The boy had been found. But look at the coordinates. He was discovered at an elevation 3,000 feet higher than the point of disappearance. To reach that summit, a 3-year-old child, whose legs are barely 2 feet long, would have had to navigate vertical cliffs, dense razor-sharp brush, and rapidly thinning oxygen. He would have had to maintain a sustained vertical velocity that would exhaust a world-class Olympic climber or an elite special forces unit. In the cold language of search and rescue, this is a kinetic anomaly, a movement that violates the energy output capacity of the human body. The termination line, the boundary where rescue becomes recovery, had been bypassed with mechanical precision. Even the elite K9 units, dogs trained to track the chemical signature of fear across any terrain, performed an anomaly of their own. They sat down and refused to move. The scent trail didn't just end, it simply ceased to exist, as if the boy's physical presence had been lifted from the linear timeline and re-rendered at the peak. The mountain didn't just take him, it elevated him. It treated his biological mass like data being uploaded to a higher server, bypassing the obstacles of three-dimensional space. We must perform a deep forensic audit of the energy involved in this ascent. To lift a mass, $, to a height, $, against the constant downward pull of gravity, $, the required work, $, is an absolute physical law that cannot be negotiated. $, natural magros. A 3-year-old's heart, a small pump no larger than a lemon, cannot generate the horsepower or the ATP required to complete a 3,000-foot vertical climb in 5 hours. It is a biological and thermodynamic impossibility. While the algorithms on our screens calculate the kinetic failure of his small frame, his mother was still anchored in a memory from just minutes before he vanished. She remembered how he had tripped over a small pebble, his knees scraping the dirt, his face scrunching up in a brief moment of toddler drama. A child who can barely navigate a flat, dusty path without stumbling cannot conquer a mountain peak in record time. And yet, he was there. And he was not alone. The boy returned with a testimony that the FBI and local authorities could not categorize because it belonged to a different reality. He spoke of a robot grandma, a figure that wore the face and the clothes of his grandmother but moved with the cold, jerky, and terrifying precision of a machine. She had taken him, he said, to a cave filled with spiders and guns, a coordinate that exists entirely outside of our maps, a place where the mountain stores what it has processed. We define this phenomenon as automated transit. In our field logic, we suspect the terrain utilizes a process of mechanical mimicry, the use of a familiar, loved image to bypass the biological fear response of a human subject. The robot grandma was not a person. She was a forensic marker of a glitch in the mountain's rendering process. The boy described her skin as cold to the touch, like a refrigerator, and her eyes as perfectly still, like glass marbles that didn't track movement or blink. When she spoke, her mouth moved, but the words felt like they were being played from a corrupted file. The cave of spiders and guns was not a physical location in the traditional sense. It was a buffer zone, a localized rupture in space-time where the mountain archives its biological assets before redepositing them onto new coordinates. The spiders were likely non-biological sensors, and the guns were non-functional props of reality, objects the mountain's logic created to fill the space. For 5 hours, the boy didn't exist in our world. He was held in a realm where the laws of biology were suspended, a guest in a subterranean memory. He was placed on that peak like a trophy of a successful experiment, a data packet successfully relocated from one elevation to another. The mountain didn't save him. It merely finished its audit, modified his internal software, and returned the data to the original shore. The Shasta boy returned to his family, but the child who played in the dirt that afternoon is gone forever. He returned as a witness to a logic we aren't meant to decrypt, his eyes reflecting a cave that has no entrance on any map we possess. He is an uncanny echo in a world that demands simple explanations for complex horrors. The mountain remains a beautiful, ancient calculator, and the robot grandma is still there, waiting in the long shadows of the pines, ready to perform the next elevation. How do you explain 3,000 feet in 5 hours? Was it a mechanical guardian, or a terrifying rift in the fabric of our reality? Like the names recorded in the Echo archives, Bryce Dalton, Megan Ashford, or the dry child on the reservoir shore, this boy's story reminds us that not all maps are meant to lead us out. Some are designed only to show us where the unknown still begins. Our next and final audit for this cycle takes us to the case of Robert Plumley, the man who returned from the void with his biological clock set back to zero. If you seek the truth that the Park Services refuse to acknowledge, authorize your enlistment in our archive now. Hit the subscribe button. Join the search. The mountain is always calculating, and it is always watching. Stay safe. Stay found. This has been a forensic audit by TDF-TV.